Hello, we are the Ethics Case Group 30. Our project goal was to analyze and present a business ethic topic from the perspective of an ethics consultant. For our ethical issue, we have chosen to speak about private prisons. This project was created by
My name is Armand Delani.
Emily Goss.
Ignacio Mendiola.
Jessica Beard, as well as Maurice Gray, who could not be here today.
Long Hun.
and Rebecca Guillen. So this is the overview of our project in order of sequence. We will begin by explaining the dilemma regarding whether or not private prisons are ethical, and we will talk about why they were created and who is actually incarcerated in these facilities. We will then analyze the financial impact that this has had in the US and the pros and cons of privatization. We will conclude with our solutions. So with that being said, we believe that private prisons use and earn their profit in unethical ways. They seek to maximize income over the rehabilitation of those who are incarcerated. There is little to no benefit for society, specifically the inmates who are serving time. There is often poor employee pay along with subpar living conditions in these prisons. So you may be curious as to why private prisons were created since they have very little benefit. Well, private prisons have always existed, specifically after the Civil War, since they were used as labor. However, in the 1980s, the US saw an increase in the private prison population due to the war on drugs. During this time, a man named Terrell Don Hudo would create a private prison company known as CoreCivic. This allowed private prisons to become a money-making tactic, and it would lead to an even larger incarceration rate in the future.
So now we will have a look at who we are talking about when referring to prisoners in America. As of 2018, there were 2,094,000 prisoners serving time. Of those prisoners, 8.5% were incarcerated in private prisons. Most prisoners are uneducated or receive little to no education. If you look at the graph to the left, you'll see that basic levels of literacy amongst prisoners are far less than that of the general public. Private prison capacities have increased over the years, as well as the length of sentences for those in private prisons. This increase is 12 days compared to that of neighboring states unaffected by private prisons' capacity increase. When it comes to recidivism rates, a study tracking 404,638 prisoners discovered that 2/3 of them were arrested again within 3 years of their release, and more than 3/4 were arrested again within 5 years. Through all this information, we can see just whose downfall is creating profit for the private prison industry. There's an immense amount of money distributed to prisons in America. Of the 7.9 million allocated to the Bureau of Prisons each year, 2.3 million goes to the fund of private prisons. However, this seemingly small chunk of the budget is being used on less than desirable staff pay and subpar facilities, with little being done to rehabilitate prisoners. 70% of the entire private prison budget goes to staff pay, where they are paid 38 cents less on average in comparison to public facilities. When it comes to profitability, each prisoner earns the private prison $15,000 on average, pushing private prisons to keep more people incarcerated for longer periods of time in order to keep the funding these prisons desire. We will now have a look at other ways inmates in private prisons generate profit. The top earning prison program, Unicor, produced $483.8 million in sales in fiscal year 2017. This very profitable program reportedly pays inmates only between 23 cents and $1.15 an hour for their labor. Not only are these programs profiting off incarcerated individuals in private prisons, their profits continue to exploit beyond the jail cell, with Unicor and CCA extending their businesses to produce ankle monitors, reentry facilities, and halfway houses. This poses the ethical question of what really is an acceptable business practice to turn a profit in today's business world. Not all profits can be considered a bad one. There are some benefits to privatized prisons, especially within our government. Private prisons save us $10,000 a year per inmate compared to public facilities. And of the fruits of prison labor, 50% are purchased by the Department of Defense, allowing a low-cost way for us to ensure the protection of the United States of America.
Since the 20th century, the number of prisoners has increased greatly due to the war on drugs. For this reason, prisoners have become overpopulated and gave birth for the private prison, playing a great part in reducing overpopulation. Not only it minimizes overcrowding, it also provides educational program for prisoners, training them to become better citizens in the future, reducing recidivism. However, in private prison, profit always comes first instead of quality. With overcrowded private prisons, prisoners are forced to sleep on the ground, making room for others. Secondly, it is unsafe. Private prisons treat their employees badly, low benefits, low paid, and etc. to maximize their profit. For this reason, private prisons include a lack cost of effectiveness, a lack of security, and safety concerns.
So now we got to figure out how to solve the ethical problem behind private prisons. If you take a look at this chart, you can see that recidivism rates in America are very high, especially if the individual has had a lot of prior arrests. The key of solving the ethical issue is to reduce recidivism rates, but you may ask yourself, well, how do you do that? The first thing that needs to be done is for the government to cancel their contracts with private prisons while maintaining employment opportunities. This will help stop the unethical system in which private prisons cut costs that result in subpar living conditions and facility maintenance. Once that's done, education/opportunity centers should be implemented, which will help with the employment opportunities and the recidivism rate. Let's look at this chart on the right. 43% of formerly incarcerated individuals are likely to return to prison within 3 years. But if the government would implement education centers that would get incarcerated individuals on track to receive their associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree, then the recidivism rate drops dramatically. The recidivism rate of a formerly incarcerated individual who then receives an associate's degree is 13.7%, 5.6% for those who receive a bachelor's degree, and less than 1% if they receive a master's degree. Not only will the implementation of education/opportunity centers help with recidivism rates, but also the implementation of adult development centers. According to the National Institute of Health, an estimated 65% of US prison population has an active substance use disorder. The implementation of adult development centers will help eliminate these substance use disorders, which will help lower the recidivism rate and make society a safer place. Now, to summarize the solution, instead of using private prisons to maximize profit, we should instead focus on the rehabilitation of prisoners. Focusing on educating and developing prisoners will benefit society by making the streets safer and can be used as a future money saving tactic. According to a study done by Northwestern University about the benefits of prison education, for every $1 invested in prison education, taxpayers will save $4 to $5 in re-incarceration costs during the first 3 years post-release.
Today, we took an in-depth look at the ethical dilemma of private prisons and how they operate. From their creation as a money and space-saving tactic to exactly who is falling victim to the questionable acts of prison labor. Our financial analysis uncovered the extreme profitability of such organizations and who benefits from the profits. It was clear that the prisoners earning no more than $1.15 an hour were not the ones seeing fair fruits of their labor. When examining the pros and cons of the private prison system, the cons tend to outweigh the pros, where the true purpose of serving time is questioned by little focus on rehabilitation and more on money saving and profit. Our proposed solution of these industries contributing to the betterment of society and reducing recidivism rates would transform these unethical practices into more ethical ones, while keeping the industries involved in private prisons profitable and generating more jobs for the community. We want to thank you all for your time with us today and for allowing us to present facts about the private prison industry. We hope we have opened your mind to the possibility of reduced recidivism and incarceration rates throughout the country. Until next time, from Ethics Case Group 30, we sincerely thank you.